Hello guys, welcome to Avina Solutions. So today this is the video about the triggers. So I think this is the session 3. So in this session we are more discussing about the what are the different types of trigger context variables which are available in the Salesforce. So if you are thorough with the triggers, how to write a triggers, how to execute triggers, what is the main idea about triggers. If you are a good developer, you want to thorough with the trigger context variables. Otherwise, uh, you don't even you write a trigger, but it is not a perfect. So if you are thorough with the trigger context variables, so it is very good practice. So today I will give some theoretical session, and after that I will give some practical knowledge about the trigger context variables. So before going to the practical session, I will give some introduction about the theoretical, and after that I will simply go into the Salesforce arc and I will do practically. So just wait. So generally these are the trigger context variables which are available in the Salesforce. So what are those context variables? There are is before, trigger dot is before, trigger dot is after, trigger dot is insert, trigger dot is update, trigger dot is delete, trigger dot is undelete. So these trigger dot is insert, trigger dot is update, and trigger dot is delete, and trigger dot is undelete. These are belongs to the DML operation on the Salesforce database. So this is the trigger dot is insert. It returns the Boolean expression if we insert some records into the Salesforce database. So this context variables gives the information about the if we are inserting some records into the Salesforce database, so it returns true, otherwise it returns false. So under trigger dot is update, so already in the Salesforce already we have some records in the Salesforce database. If you are doing any modifications, or if you are doing any if you are doing any changes to the previous records, then it returns the true. So if you are not doing any updates on previous records, it returns the false. This is the to more about the trigger dot is update, trigger dot is delete. So this DML of this trigger dot is delete context variables defines them. If your record is deleted, so it returns true. If the record is deleted, it returns true, otherwise it returns the false. So this is a boolean expression. So trigger dot is undelete. So after deleting some records into the Salesforce database, it's the records which are simply going to the recycle bin. So there is a concept of recycle bin in the Salesforce database. So if you are just now if you are delete some records in the Salesforce database, so it is not hard delete, it's just delete. It is simply going to the Salesforce recycle bin. If you are retrieve the records which are in the recycle bin, then we have a context variable called is undelete. If we are the just scenario, like if you are retrieving the records from the recycle bin, it returns the true, otherwise it returns the false. So this is the context variables. Trigger dot is before, so the trigger logic is executed before insertion operation, or before update operation, or before delete operation. So that type of scenario we can call it this trigger dot is before context variable is very important. So trigger dot is after is a one of the context variables which is executed after. So if you are perform any operations after insertion of records into the Salesforce database, for example, after inserting an account record, then immediately one account contact record is created. So this is called trigger dot is after. So after inserting some records into Salesforce database, we committed some changes into the contact object. So that is called is after. From trigger dot is before, trigger dot is after, up to trigger dot is undelayed. These are the common context variables. So everyone is understand. But the main main thing. So the main confusion starts from the trigger.new and trigger.new map and trigger.old and trigger.old map. So these are the four context variables in the Salesforce which confuses them more. So today I'm going to give some clarity on this trigger.new, trigger.new and trigger.new map and trigger.old and trigger.old map. So before going to explain these trigger.new and these four context variables, I will show one PowerPoint presentation. After that, I'm doing some exercises, practical exercises on this context variables. So just wait. For example, we have a account object in the sales cloud, and we have a, so account object is nothing but simply account table in the Salesforce database. The account object in a sales application is simply as account table in a Salesforce database. So now my requirement is I want to insert some record with the last name with the user one and first name with the u1. So how can I do that? So I simply create the one object for the account. So this is the syntax for the creation of one account. So I simply create the account ACC equal to with the keyword of new. We can simply create the object of this account class account anything object. So with the simply new keyword we can create some data into the account object. So after that, so when we so so this so this account ACC equal to new account last name equal to user one and first name equal to u1. This statement indicates that this account table is filled with the user one and user two. So but ID is not created. So when we create a new account with the new keyword, we can only create the data. So what are the data? Last name and first name. ID is the one of the field, is a metadata in Salesforce account object, which is created by the Salesforce system itself. So ID is the unique value which is required to identify the particular record. So that's why ID is created by the Salesforce system. So we are no worry about this ID. So I for creation of ID, the responsibility is Salesforce system. So before insert, so when I am creating this object, we can only create the new, we can only create the data, some data, raw data, but no ID value is null. Why? Because Salesforce system creates the ID. So when I am inserted this account with the data user one and first name with first name u1. So when I am insert this ACC, when I am using this statement insert ACC with the reference variable ACC, when I use this insert ACC, this say statement simply inserted the Salesforce data into the Salesforce database by creating the 18 or 15 digit ID, Salesforce ID. So this time we have a ID. Previously, when we create the account, this time ID value is null. After we perform some insertion, some DML operation, we have a ID. So we have a ID. So I am proving that. Just to give me on 1 minute. After that, I am going to give the practical session. If the ID is not created or not in the Salesforce database before insertion operation or before DML operations like insertion, update, delete, this type of operations, create, edit, something, this type of operations. So before using the DML operations, we have a two context variables. One is trigger.new and trigger.new map. So these are the only context variables before using the any DML operations. So trigger.new is the simply list of accounts. It is a simple of list of accounts without creation of IDs. Note it down. It is trigger.new is a simply list of accounts without creation of ID with user raw data. User raw data means your last name and first name, which is required fields. So trigger.new map is also a simply map of ID comma account, but in the ID field, it is a key value. So it is a key. ID is a key, but the keys are null before using the any DML operation like insert ACC, like that. Before using any DML operations, so the trigger.new and trigger.new map is a simply account records data without the creation of ID. For example, if you use any DML operation like insertion or update or delete any operation, so we have a, so Salesforce itself creates one ID for the particular record. So got it, my point? So whenever I am using this DML operations like insertion, update, like anything it is. So before it has a only use last name and first name. After using the DML operation like insert or update DML operations, the Salesforce system itself creates the unique ID for identifying the Salesforce record, which is associated with the Salesforce data. That is user one and user two. These user one and U1 last name is associated with the Salesforce ID, which is used to identify the particular record. So up to now, everything is clear. So after inserting some data into the Salesforce database, ID is created. So after creating some, so now we have a file data in the Salesforce database. So in the Salesforce database, we have a two context variables is there. So before insertion of data into the Salesforce database, we have a two context variables, that is trigger.new and trigger.newMap. So here, after inserting some data into the Salesforce database, we have a trigger.old, which represents the old records which are available in the Salesforce database. That is list of accounts. Trigger.old is a simply list of account, old records. It is a old records. Trigger.oldMap is the simply map of ID comma account. So this time map collection contains the ID of the particular account. Previously, they don't have any ID before using the DML operation. Everything is fine up to now. If you have find any difficulty to understand this concept, please ping your doubt in the form of comment section. As possible, I see your comment. I will respond immediately. Okay. So I will go to another slide. So these are the trigger events before insert, after insert, trigger events. These are the trigger events before they are, these are context variables. These are the context variables, but these are trigger events which are used in between the parentheses at the time of trigger creation. These are what are those trigger events? Before insert, after insert, before update, after update, before delete, after delete, after undelete. There is no trigger event before undelete. So there is only one trigger. There is only one trigger event for the undelete operation. That is after undelete operation. So before insertion, among these trigger.new and trigger.newMap and trigger.old map, these are the four context variables which is very important to understanding more clear about the triggers. So if we know these four context variables, you will get definitely a wonderful knowledge in the trigger concepts. So for the before insertion, we have only before insertion of data into the Salesforce database, we have only the new records without creation of ID. So before insertion, the records don't have ID. So that's why trigger.new having trigger before insertion operation, the only trigger.new is available. So after trigger.new map and trigger.old and trigger.old map having some IDs. So before insertion, only trigger.new context variable is available. After insertion also same as before insertion. So there is only one difference is after insertion, there is a creation of ID in the Salesforce database. That's why the record having the ID. That's why they have a trigger.new map. So the records having the some new map. So before update and after update having the all the context variables. Trigger dot before update and after update having trigger dot new context variable have trigger dot new map and trigger dot old map, trigger dot old. These are the four context variables which are associated with the before update and after update. So no worry about it. The confusion is before insertion, before after insert. So before insert and after insert is same as, both are same, but only difference is they have only one extra context variable, that is trigger.new map. So before update and after update is having 4 context variables. So before delete and after delete is the same as the, is quite opposite to the before insert. So before inserting, before delete and after delete is the before delete, where we can delete records if some already we have some fine data in the Salesforce database, then we have a chance to delete the data. Then only we can delete data. So let me listen carefully. If we have already some data in the Salesforce database, then only we have a chance to delete that data. If we don't have any data in the Salesforce database, there is no concept of delete. So that's why trigger.new and trigger.new map is the new records. So delete operation is basically already existing data. So that's why trigger.old and trigger.old map is there. So before delete is same as the trigger before insertion operation, but the only difference is after delete after undelete operation, that trigger.new map is there. So it's same as after insertion. So I will give summary. Before update and after update having the 4 trigger context variables. After insertion, before insert and after insert having the only one context variable, that is trigger.new. But after insert trigger events having the extra trigger context variable, that is trigger.new map. So before delete and after delete having the that basically the delete operation is doing on already existing data. So already existing data means it is a old data. That's why trigger.old and trigger.old map. That is fine. There is no concept of trigger.new and trigger.new map. Before delete and after delete. There is for undelete operation, there is it is same as the after insert. So the this trigger dot after trigger dot undelete the events having the only 2 context variables, that is trigger.new and trigger.new map, which is same as the after insert context variables. So everything is fine, I think so. So without any delay, let's get started on the practical session. This is my Salesforce arc. So before explaining the 4 trigger context variables, which is trigger.new and trigger.new map and trigger.old and trigger.old map. So I will take one anonymous window, which is debug, and open execute anonymous window. So just to maximize this page. So I already said, so I'm just going to uh, create one account record in the account objects. For creation of account, just create the object for that account acc equal to new account. The mandatory field is name. So this is only having trigger dot new, which means list of accounts. So list of accounts without without creation of Salesforce unique ID. So let me add this data into the list collection. For bulkifying, we have a list collection. So list of account acc equal to new list of account. So there is a duplicate variable. So for that, I'm going to ACC list. So for adding data into the list collection, we have a method called add reference list to reference variable add method. So I am passing this account creation reference variable into the list collection. So then I am printing this data system dot debug. So I already said this list, this when I'm creating this account with the keyword of new, this this that has only raw data which is without ID. So there is no ID for this data. So let me execute this. So incorrect signature method does not exit system dot debug ACC. I'm passing the variable reference variable. So let me execute debug only. So this time having the only trigger without only account to data, which is name equal to LIA. So there is no concept of ID. So there is no concept of ID. So just now I'm going to trigger. This is already said. This is trigger.new. So for that I'm going to trigger.new map. So I'm executing trigger.new map. For that it is trigger.new map. So I'm insert ACC list. So I simply, if we use any DML operation like insert or update any DML operation, whatever data we created, the data is simply dumped into the Salesforce database. So this statement creates dump into Salesforce database with ID, which is generated by the generated by Salesforce system. So this is not ID is not a field which is created by the field. ID is not a field which is not created by the user. So ID is a simply Salesforce field, Salesforce ID, which is filled with the Salesforce system itself. So when I'm inserting this data, so I simply having the new map. So I'm build list of account ACC list one equal to, I'm build the one SQL query, then select ID name field from account where ID where name equal to so what is the name? This is, so I'm getting the record which is recently created. So ordered by it is created date. So for that I'm simply going to the create. Sorry. Created date. Where is it created? One field is there, created date. So I'm searching for that field. Where is date field? So simply just leave it about, leave it simply leave it. So if I'm justly create one map, so I'm just printing id. So system dot debug acc list 1, acc list 1. So let me execute. So here I'm creating the so if you clearly observe in the second, it has the id which is created by the salesforce. Before in the line 1, I'm simply creating the date account record with simply data. So right now there is no id. So after creating some data and we push the data into the list collection to bulkify the apex code, and we when so when I'm printing the data, there is no id, there is no id. So after using some dml operations like insertion operation, here it is. So we have a, this time we have a id which is same as lia, and lia name equal to lia, but this time we get the id. So trigger dot map, new map, this is map of id comma account map new one equal to new map of id comma account equal to, I'm just passing this reference variable, this reference variables into this, and system.debug system.debug map of new, map of new, this is map data, this is new map data, new map data with the salesforce id. So after using dml operation, so simply I'm going to create one more. So this time there is a only map one. So I'm simply is putting this. So this is map without id. So this is simply trigger.new map. So this is trigger.new, this is the trigger.new map. For example, so if I am already inserting some data into the Salesforce database, so that's why I'm just printing, I'm just executing this row with null id index 5th. So right now there is no id by so that's why the type of error is occur. So from the line 5 onwards, there is no ID. It's simply data. So from after using the some DML operation, we have a ID, Salesforce ID. So that is called trigger.new map. So after inserting some data, after using the some DML operation, the data simply data, whatever we created. So with the using of new keyword, the data is simply going to the Salesforce database. So then it is having a Salesforce ID, which is created by the Salesforce system. So trigger.old and trigger.old map is the simply already existing data. For example, if I am list of, so I'm retrieving the some account ACC list to equal to, I am getting the select star from account. So I'm simply creating the copy. So map of to ACC list. So I'm printing this. I'm printing this. So but it is old map, old records, old map, old map data. So this is the data. So literally I am retrieving all the records which are in the Salesforce account table, which is nothing but Salesforce data, the data which is in the Salesforce database. So I'm just executing. So unexpected line number 12, line number 12, account. Column number 5 is the error. So select all from the account. So I'm passing the data. So for example, ID, I think star app is not working. So this time I'm getting the all the data. So all the data. So this is the all the data which in the Salesforce existing data. So generally this trigger.old and old map represents the already existing data in the Salesforce database. So trigger.new and new map is represents the records which are simply data which before going to insertion into the Salesforce database by using the DML operations. So before so trigger.new and new map is simply a data which is simply data. Especially trigger.new is the simply it is a data without having the Salesforce ID. Trigger.new map is the data which is already is inserted into the Salesforce data. So it is having the some ID. It is that record is just now created. So that is indicated by the trigger.new map. So trigger.old is it is the data which is already existing in the Salesforce database. So we are just using the trigger.old data for some reference variables. So if we are checking, so trigger.old map, and it is the same as the already existing data. This is all about triggered context variables. So and also we have some types of triggered context variables other than that trigger.new and trigger.old, trigger.new map and trigger.old map, and is after is before some DML operations. There is a two context variables is there, that is trigger.size and trigger.operation type, and trigger is executing. So is executing is just checking, it is a context variables which checks them is the trigger logic is executed or not. If the trigger logic is executed, it returns the true as the boolean expression. So if it is returns the null, it is not the trigger logic is not executed, then it returns the false as a boolean expression. So trigger dot size, so how many records that can be executed by the trigger logic, that can be indicated by the trigger dot size context variables. Trigger dot operation type is a simply enum type. So enum type having, so by using the simply enum type without using the trigger dot is after trigger dot it is a simply switch case type. Trigger dot operation type is a simply switch case type. So so by using some switch cases, so we can execute without using the trigger dot is after trigger dot b is before. So we use instead of those context variables, so by using the operation type in the switch case, we use the some keywords when after insert, when after update, when after delete, the type of in that way we can develop the trigger logic. This is all about context variables. In the upcoming session I will develop the more programs in the context of in the triggers. So and also we have a chance to, if there is any time, so if there is any time permits, we and then also we have a develop some test classes to test the triggers on the triggers. So we are also, if there is any fine time, so we are also writing some test classes on the triggers. So this is all about trigger context variables. In the upcoming session we just executing some uh, programming on the Salesforce database with the knowledge with so if you are fine at, if you are fine with the map collection, then everything is fine. So if you are not clear understanding of the map collection in the Salesforce database, it it confuses a lot. So my sincere suggestion is, before going to learn about the triggers, so do thorough with the map collection in the Salesforce database. So that is all about triggers. If you have any doubts, please comment your doubt in the comment section. So anything it is. So thank you for watching this video.